King Von's murder shook the entire rap game, but now his sister is dropping details that could flip the whole story on its head. In a rant that's going viral, Kayla B suggests Von never loved Asian Doll and was just using her for clout, and according to her, that fake relationship may have played a part in what led to his death.
Well, he told me. He was using her for clout. He didn't really like her.
Did she find out and set him up? Stick around because we're breaking down everything Kayla B had to say and re-examining what really happened the night Von was murdered. The night Von got knocked down. In the early morning of November 6, 2020, King Von, government name Davon Daquan Bennett, caught a fatal one outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. This went down around 4 a.m. when Von and his squad ran into Quando Rondo and his crew in the parking lot. What started as them jawing at each other quickly turned into hands being thrown. Surveillance footage that TMZ got hold of shows King Von throwing hands at Quando's people. According to Quando's camp, Von was on demon time, rolling up on Rondo's crew all hostile after they woke up from catching Z's in a whip outside the lounge. The situation went from hands to banging real quick. The Atlanta Police Department later confirmed Von caught his fatal ones during this initial exchange before the boys in blue could even step in. The police situation made everything even more hectic. 2 off-duty APD officers were working security at the Monaco, and another cop was patrolling nearby with his lights on. When the shots started popping off, these officers tried to break it up, and at least one of them busted his gun trying to stop the violence. The whole situation left multiple bodies dropped. 3 people got bodied, including King Von, and 3 more got hit but survived. After Von caught those hot ones, his homies were trying to get him to the hospital, rushing him into a whip. Despite their efforts, Von couldn't be saved and passed away shortly after arriving. The next day, November 7th, 2020, the police knocked Timothy Leaks, street name Lil Tim, a 22-year-old known to be tight with Quando Rondo. They hit Lil Tim with felony murder for Von's death.
Well, you pull out and you shoot 4 times.
Yeah, the gun jammed.
Oh, the gun jammed?
Yeah.
After the 4th shot?
Probably like the 3rd shot.
When they grabbed him, Tim was also in the hospital getting treated for a gunshot wound.
You end up getting shot twice?
Right.
Well, what parts of the body?
I get shot in my right hip bone, and I get shot on my ass. Go in and out though.
According to the autopsy, Von got hit multiple times in the chest and abdomen, and that's what took him out. But that wasn't the end of it. In fact, the aftermath of Von's death sparked ongoing beef, serious legal drama, and most relevant to what we're talking about today, public messiness between his sister Kayla B and his ex-shorty Asian Doll. Kayla B dropped one bombshell just days after Von died, and now she's back with a bigger one. The first bombshell went down just days after Von passed, when some foul autopsy photos hit the internet. Kayla B went off on the gram, putting the alleged leaker on blast, some worker at Airport Mortuary in Atlanta who she accused of disrespecting her brother's body by sharing the pics. She typed in all caps, "This the sick that posted my brother pictures. He work at the Airport Mortuary. We need him fired now." This incident had Von's fans heated, highlighting how even in death, celebrities don't get treated with respect. This crash out was valid from King Von's sister, and what followed was a series of crash outs. The second bombshell was accusatory remarks against King Von's popular ex, Asian Doll, talking about how she didn't have money, and that Von might have seen her as a gold digger. This led people to wonder whether Asian Doll had something to do with King Von's death.
When you started messing with Von, girl, you was f***ed up, and he even told you was f***ed up. You ain't had no money for real. You was out here bad. You was in Atlanta down bad. Like, if don't nobody know, I know.
So who exactly is Kayla B, and why do people care what she has to say about Von's legacy? Kayla B, born Kayla Bennett, is King Von's little sister. Since her brother got killed, she's positioned herself as the protector of his legacy, especially when it comes to how people talk about his personal relationships. Kayla is an Instagram influencer with serious clout, over 565K followers. She posts sponsored content for brands like Pretty Little Things and Dior, plus she pushes her own clothing line, True Fashion Boutique. She's also an artist herself, having made music with King Von while he was alive. Her project OSL has 7 tracks, though she hasn't dropped any new music in 2025 from what we can tell. To understand Kayla's actions, you gotta see them through the lens of losing her brother. King Von's death in November 2020 left a huge void, and Kayla's been on a mission to control the narrative around his life. Her issues with Asian Doll seem to come from wanting to be the one who defines Von's story, particularly when it comes to who he was really rocking with. To really get why Kayla B and Asian Doll keep beefing, we need to look closer at Asian Doll and what she meant to Yvonne Asian Doll, born December 7, 1996 in Dallas, came up as the first female artist signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 Eskimo Records in 2017. Known for her aggressive style and drill-influenced sound, she was already making noise in the rap game before she linked with Von. The relationship between Asian Doll and King Von was a whole roller coaster of passion, toxicity, and outside pressure. While they obviously had chemistry, seen in their music and how they moved on social media, their situation was complicated by cheating rumors, constant breakups, and the challenges that came with Von's street life. Their bond was so tight that Asian Doll got Von's name tatted on her multiple times, including his name on her hand and a whole portrait of him on her body, ending up with 5 Von-related tats by 2021. In April 2020, they dropped a music video for Pull Up, featuring both of them. The video hit over 2 million views on YouTube in just weeks, showing their chemistry with Von and Asian rapping together and looking like a power couple. Despite how they looked on the outside, the relationship was mad rocky. Cheating rumors were constant. Asian Doll hinted at problems in tweets she later deleted, claiming Von was stepping out. In one post, she reportedly wrote, "I'm single now, y'all can have it," though they ended up getting back together. People close to them described their relationship as on and off, with them constantly breaking up and making up. Asian Doll later reflected on this in an interview, saying, "I had the rawest and longest and most genuine, realest relationship with Von," but admitted they faced challenges, including thirsty females who would put on him. In a popular clip of Von, his homeboys were trying to get him to sleep with one of the strippers he asked about. He asked about her, and she was down with it.
I be trying to slow down.
Oh, me?
I'm trying to slow down.
For real?
Welcome, ain't no slowing down. You got one life to live out this morning.
Look, boy.
But then he changed his mind and said Asian Doll would kill him if she found out. By October 2020, just weeks before Von got killed, reports were saying that he and Asian Doll had split again. Asian Doll confirmed this later, admitting they weren't officially together when he died, but were still in contact. But by October 2020, just a few weeks before Von got killed, word was they had split up. And this adds more fire to the speculation about how she could have been involved in his murder. But the most recent and relevant incident went down in March 2025, when Kayla went on Instagram Live making claims about Von's relationship with Asian Doll. This is probably what sparked those clickbait headlines about shocking details, though as we'll see, it wasn't actually about how he died at all. On March 5th, 2025, Kayla B claimed during an IG Live that King Von's relationship with Asian Doll wasn't real, saying he was only with her for clout. She added that Chicago men use women for all their worth, painting Von's relationship with Asian Doll as just for show.
So my first time even knowing about this musty young lady is when my brother even told me. And this is what his exact words, this is what he told me. He was using her for clout. He didn't really like her. He was just gonna play along, until like he take off with this music. And anybody that know a Chicago guy, no, that's what they do. Maybe a Chicago man will use you until you dry.
Despite the breakup, Asian Doll was clearly devastated when Von passed. On Twitter, she wrote, "I'll never be the same. I just hope you visit me in all my dreams. Von, I'm gone, and my heart is gone. I'm just an empty soul in a human body." This public display of grief later became the main source of drama between Asian Doll and Kayla B, setting the stage for the ongoing beef that's kept Von's name in the headlines long after his passing. The tension between Kayla B and Asian Doll hit a new level when Kayla publicly checked Asian Doll, stating, "Ain't no Queen Von," and claiming Asian was capping about being in a relationship with Von when he got knocked. Asian Doll, who'd recently announced she was expecting, clapped back on Twitter. She stood on business about her relationship with Von, claiming in an interview that she had the rawest, longest, and most genuine relationship with Von, and emphasized how she held him down during his come-up. From the way his ex and sister describe Von, you'd think he is one of the nicest rappers alive, but the real Von we know is one ruthless and calculating individual with multiple bodies under his belt. The beef and bodies dropped. Von's death wasn't just a personal loss for his people. It had serious consequences throughout the rap game, especially when it comes to escalating existing beef. But check this. What a lot of people don't realize is that the altercation that night wasn't just some random beef. It was actually the end result of some deep-seated animosity that involved some of the biggest names in the rap game. King Von catching the fade with Quando Rondo's crew was connected to a bigger conflict between Von's OTF, Only the Family Squad, and NBA YoungBoy's Never Broke Again camp. This beef had been brewing for years, years, setting the stage for what went down that fatal night. The tension between King Von and NBA Youngboy was a mix of street politics, rap rivalries, and personal drama. First, you had the gang affiliations. Von was allegedly BD, Black Disciples, a Chicago-based gang, while Youngboy's NBA collective had ties to opposing sets. These street ties created underlying tension that spilled into their music. Second, there was the bigger beef between Lil Durk, Von's Day One, and OTF boss, and NBA Youngboy. This rivalry kicked off around 2017, starting over music competition but escalating over street issues. Von, as Durk's loyal soldier, was caught in the crossfire. Third, and perhaps most spicy, were the personal issues between Von and Youngboy. According to the word on the street, there was tension over a female, with Von allegedly messing with one of Youngboy's exes. This personal disrespect took the beef from professional to personal real quick. The tension between these camps wasn't just for the gram. Throughout 2019 and 2020, Von and Youngboy were sending shots at each other on social media. In one 2020 interview, Von downplayed their issues but hinted at problems, saying, "I ain't really into that internet shit. But if it's up, it's up," basically letting it be known he was ready for whatever. Quando Rondo's role in all this is crucial. As a signed artist to Youngboy's Never Broke Again label, Rondo was basically a proxy in this beef. His tight relationship with Youngboy meant he inherited Youngboy's ops, including those from OTF and King Von. So when Von ran into Quando Rondo that night in Atlanta, it wasn't just some random encounter. It was two opposing forces from an ongoing conflict coming face to face, and the rest is history. After Von got knocked, the violence only intensified the existing beef. Sources close to Quando Rondo told TMZ that he felt his life was in danger during the altercation and believed his crew acted in self-defense. Meanwhile, Von's death turned up the heat between OTF and Quando Rondo's camp, with Lil Durk getting into multiple public disputes with Quando Rondo and NBA Youngboy in the months that followed. On November 15, 2020, King Von was laid to rest in his hometown of Chicago, with mad fans and fellow artists showing love. But the story doesn't end there. The cycle of Get Back continued for years. Most notably, in October 2024, Lil Durk got booked for allegedly putting a bag on Quando Rondo's head, believed to be retaliation for Von's killing. This shows how these beefs don't just die. They evolve and persist long after the initial bodies drop. Von's death turned up the heat between his OTF, Only the Family Squad, and Quando Rondo's crew, with Rondo steady disrespecting Von's name online in the months following the shooting. This wasn't just internet talk. It represented real street beef that's had real consequences. To really understand what's going on, we gotta look at the Chicago drill scene that made Von who he was, both as an artist and as a person. Chicago's rap scene, including figures like King Von, is deeply connected to gang life, such as Von's ties to the Black Disciples, which fuels these deadly rivalries. Von grew up in Chicago's Parkway Gardens, known as O Block, one of the most dangerous projects on the South Side, notorious for constant shooting and heavy gang presence. This environment shaped Von's whole mentality and struggles. Growing up in O Block, Von was surrounded by violence from jump. He witnessed his homies and family get killed, which he talked about in his music. In his track Crazy Story, he rapped about the harsh realities of his block, reflecting the trauma that made him who he was. Von was reportedly a member of the Black Disciples, BD, nicknamed Grandson because he reminded people of BD founder David Barksdale. This gang affiliation meant he was always in danger, always having to watch his back. Von's reputation as a hitter, someone who handles business in the streets, gave him credibility but also made him a target. He was linked to several bodies, including allegedly the 2014 killing of Gakura K.I. Barnes, a known Gangster Disciples member, though he was never charged because witnesses wouldn't testify. Von's life was full of serious legal issues, which affected his stability and mental health. In 2014, Von caught a body case with 2 attempted murder charges for a shooting in Chicago's Englewood area that left 1 dead and 2 injured. He sat in county for over 3 years, waiting for trial, which he described as hell. The charges eventually got dropped in 2017 because witnesses wouldn't cooperate, but those years locked up changed him.
So he was in jail for 2 murders?
Yeah, 1 murder and 2 attempts. I just beat.
How you beat that?
What you mean I
mean, you didn't do it.
Then in June 2019, Von and Lil Durk got booked in Atlanta for a shooting outside a drive-in, charged with robbery and attempted murder. Von got out on a $300K bond, but was on house arrest in Atlanta while the case was pending. In a Billboard interview, he talked about how restrictive house arrest was, saying he could only leave for work, which limited his movement and ability to focus on music. Beyond his legal drama, Von was fighting many personal battles that shaped his short life and contributed to the complex dynamics we've been discussing. Von's Von's father was locked up for most of his childhood, leaving his mom to raise him and his siblings in the trenches. Von mentioned this in interviews, talking about growing up without a father figure and the financial struggles his family faced. Von was also a father to 3 kids, a son and 2 daughters. While he kept his family business private, having 3 mouths to feed while dealing with legal issues and trying to build his career added serious pressure. After his death, people close to him mentioned how Von wanted to provide a better life for his kids, a goal he was working toward when he got killed. All of Von's experiences probably took a heavy toll mentally. Growing up surrounded by violence left deep scars. He lost countless homies and family to the streets, which he talked about in his music. The rap game at that time didn't provide much support for mental health, especially for artists like Von, who came from environments where seeking help was seen as weakness. Von put his pain in his music, but without proper support, he likely struggled to process all his trauma. Despite his shortcomings, there is zero doubt that King Von's legacy is massive, and his influence on the rap game and the streets of Chicago will never be forgotten. The legacy and street lessons. Before he got taken out at only 26, King Von was on his way to becoming one of the biggest names in drill. His storytelling ability was different. Tracks like Crazy Story showed his talent for painting vivid pictures of street life. His album Welcome to O Block, which dropped just a week before he died, proved he was leveling up as an artist. Von's death cut short what could have been a legendary career. As one music critic said, Von was just scratching the surface of his abilities. His storytelling was reminiscent of early Tupac, with the authenticity that can't be manufactured. The legal consequences of Von's death are still playing out years later. Like we mentioned earlier, Lil Durk's October 2024 arrest for allegedly putting a hit on Quando Rondo is probably the biggest example. This case shows how the cycle of get back can extend years beyond the initial incident. Durk, as Von's Day One and OTF leader, allegedly sought revenge almost 4 years after Von's death, demonstrating how deep these street beefs go and how long the memory is when it comes to losing someone close to you. Meanwhile, Timothy Leaks, Lil Tim, the man charged with sending Von to the afterlife, had his own legal battle, but they were surprisingly very brief. Lil Tim eventually got released under Georgia's Stand Your Ground law. This basically meant nobody was held accountable in the system for Von's death, and that lit a fire under OTF that would burn for years. For Lil Durk, Von's death wasn't just the loss of a fellow rapper, it was like losing family. Durk and Von were tight, with Durk seeing Von as his little brother and the future of OTF. When Von got killed, Durk took to social media writing, "My twin gone only in the physical, I'll see you again one day." In interviews, Durk has said about Von, he was going to be bigger than me, showing just how much he believed in Von's talent and future. This wasn't just a professional relationship, this was brotherhood. And in the streets, when your brother gets taken out and the system lets the shooter walk, there's only one code to follow: get back. That get back would come years later, but it would shake the whole rap game. On October 26, 2024, almost exactly 4 years after Von's death, Lil Durk got arrested for allegedly orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot targeting Quando Rondo. According to federal indictments, Durk allegedly put a straight-up bounty on Quando Rondo's head. He reportedly offered serious bread and music opportunities through OTF to anyone willing to put in that work on Rondo. The feds claim Durk used coded language to make it clear he'd pay for Rondo's elimination. Durk allegedly recruited 5 OTF associates to carry out the hit: Kayvon London Grant, Vonnie, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Didi, Keith Jones, Flacka, David Bryan Lindsay, Brown Ayez, and Asa Houston, Boogie. All of them got charged alongside Durk with conspiracy to commit murder for hire. The plot went down like this: Durk allegedly used OTF money to fund the whole operation, even using an OTF credit card to pay for flights and hotels in Los Angeles for his people. This paper trail would later become major evidence against him. The 5 guys traveled to LA in August 2022, specifically hunting for Quando Rondo. They used 2 vehicles to track him down, showing this was all carefully planned. On August 19, 2022, they spotted Rondo and his cousin Saviaya Robinson, Lil Pab, at a gas station near the Beverly Center in West Hollywood. They opened fire with automatic weapons aiming for Rondo, but in a tragic turn, Rondo escaped unharmed while his cousin Lil Pab got fatally hit. The feds built a case using financial records, tracing hotel and flight payments back to OTF. They also allegedly have over 230 gigabytes of digital evidence, including recordings and surveillance footage. Some reports suggest there might even be an informant from within OTF, possibly OTF Jam, who may have flipped and provided inside information. For Durk, this alleged retaliation came from a place of deep loyalty and street code. In the drill world, you can't let your brother's killer walk free and do nothing. But now Durk is locked up, awaiting trial set for October 2025, with his bond request denied because the judge sees him as too influential and a flight risk. Finally, behind the headlines, social media beef and music industry politics are real people dealing with a devastating loss. Von was only 26 when he got taken out, a young man with his whole future ahead of him, leaving family, friends, and fans to wonder what could have been. King Von's story is, at its core, a tragedy. A talented young hitmaker whose life got cut short by the same street violence he rapped about. The aftermath of his death, including the tension between his sister and ex-shorty, shows how messy and complicated grief can be, especially when different people are fighting over who has the right to define someone's legacy. What's clear is that Von made a serious impact in his short time, both on the people close to him and on fans who connected with his music. His story also serves as a sobering reminder of how beef that starts with words too often ends with bodies dropping. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.